Author's note. Although someone gives you a bright smile, this does not ensure that same brightness illuminates from inside of them. Depression is no joke, and the end results are often too late to three-point turn the loss. So even if a person tells you it's all right, please do all you can to see that it actually is. Kennedy Brown. Evers' diary. Tesha's story. You have my attention. Suicide is never a subject anyone wishes to ever experience or even hard to read about, but when it is within not only your family, but your home, nothing ever seems to ease the pain. All you do is wonder, why? Even with a note left behind, deciphered in the pages of a diary, secrets and heartache lay deep within messages that you should have known the person was going through, yet not once did you notice the smile was only makeup and the antics were only requests to be loved, although she never mentions anything, but you notice the changes, yet you can't quite put your hands on it, and suddenly it's too late, because like that diary, you are also keeping a secret. The only one that you must now reveal. Or do you? Now, as the day has gone from heartache to heartfelt guilt, I lay in my bed. Across the room to the empty bed that will never be slept in again because your sister was going through such heartbreak that she decided she could not take the blow she had been dealt. You feel guilty because this time, you were not there to revive what you felt the first time was a cry for help, and it was upon this day I was not home to stop my older sister Evers from taking her own life. A beautiful girl who seemingly had it all. But I knew something or someone was eating at not only her heart, but her soul. It brings back the day of her first attempt a year ago. I came home from school. Evers had decided to play hooky with her on-again off-again boyfriend Vincent Norris. After all, she would have T&E house to herself. Our parents were working and our brother Timothy, or Tim as we all call him, was living on campus at USS of Greer. Although Evers was the oldest between she and Tim, he attended college. He skipped 2 grades, making him graduate before Evers. I was shocked to get home to find Evers was home alone. Vincent had obviously been here because there were 2 glasses on her nightstand and remnants from Burger King. Annoyed that she could get away with anything, I called out to her. Evers, get up. You didn't wash the dishes that you promised me you would do, so I would keep your school skipping escapade. Lazy ass didn't even move. It was then I saw her phone laying beside a bottle of our mom's oxycodone from a surgery months ago. I looked at the social media page and saw Vincent with a chick named Katina. It was then that I realized Evers had taken an overdose. Frantic, instead of calling 911, after feeling a slight pulse and rapid breathing, I called Tim. T, hurry. Something is wrong with Evers. I am calling the paramedics now. He replied, OTW. It was at this time Evers began to make a jerking move. Her eyes glazed yet open. She began vomiting as I rushed to her side as to help her off her back, before she drowned in her own vomit. Not more than 8 minutes passed when Tim bolted into the bedroom. Evers, what would make you do this? My brother asked as I went to make some hot coffee and try to make Evers stay awake. She only asked, why didn't you just let me die? Because I love you. You are my sister. Yeah, well, Vincent doesn't love me. Did you know he has been seeing Carly behind my back? My best friend. Evers's 90 proof vodka breath produced. Tim really laid into her. You gotta be out of your mind. Let them be great. Your dumbass was gonna leave us just to get back at some simp. Evers only cried harder, but at least the crying led to her gagging and throwing up. I'm sorry. I was just going through some things. I wasn't hurting anyone but myself. She sniffled. I looked at Tim. Maybe we should keep this between the 3 of us. But Ev, you need help. Damn Vincent. Let Carly have him. If your best friend can do something as low as to sleep with your boyfriend, newsflash. She was never your friend. And as for Vincent, you should already know he is not worth a tear. Evers whispered, even after I cut school, to be with him today because he said he needed to see me. Then he not only shows up, he shows up with Carly. They came here just to tell me that they are together. Carly wouldn't even look me in my face. As if we were never friends at all. Evers cried. And the sad thing was, Evers really thought all this time Carly was her best friend. I am laying here now regretting the fact I made my brother promise not to tell our parents about Evers's first suicide attempt. But he did, however, tell Tanya, their biological mom, or as Tim refers to her as the vagina he rode in on. Maybe I was protecting Evers from embarrassment. Maybe I was protecting our parents, or maybe I thought in some way Evers only wanted attention. Sadly, I realize now my sister had some deep-rooted depression issues, And there was only one way to find out. I arose from my bed, walked across the room to the bed my sister once slept in. I sat on the bed and reached down beneath the trundle and pulled out the object I sought. I removed the secret compartment in her vanity case and withdrew a gold key and opened the Pandora's box. Evers's diary.
Ease my troublin' mind. Kennedy Brown. Second attempt, Evers won't wake up. Tesha. Read all about it. I shook as I inserted the gold key in Evers' jewelry box. Of course this would not be the first time I snooped in my sister's diary, but it was the first time I opened it with sadness. I felt as if I was violating her memory. I say memory because she had no rights. Not anymore. She lost that when she decided to break our family down in her death. We loved her. Why wasn't that enough? Maybe Evers felt this way when she lost Vincent, but he didn't die. She did, all because his love was all she felt she needed, yet he was on to the next one, breaking my sister's heart. My hands were shaking much like they did when Uncle Devanti was babysitting and Evers talked me into stealing a dub of marijuana from his stash. Of course he never mentioned it, but he did leave little snide and funny remarks in front of our parents to let us know that he knew. For instance, one day we ordered a pizza and when it was delivered he told me to pay the $5 delivery fee. I rolled my eyes until he said, "Come on, Evers." He said to my sister, "Tesha is crying broke, but I know both of you have 5 on it." We ignored him. After all, his blend didn't even get us high. As I smiled at the good old days, I opened Evers's diary and read at least 5 pages that only spoke of nothing but how she and Vincent had fought, broke up and got back together, and how hard she was to get along with when things were not good between she and Vincent. She wasn't lying. It was damn near impossible to get her to do anything or talk to anyone, not even me. For instance, whenever Vincent did something it was everyone else's fault, even her best friend Deirdre, simply because Vincent and Deirdre were first cousins. But truth be told, Deirdre told Evers that Vincent was not who she needed, but Evers paid no attention whatsoever, even when Evers' ex-friend, Carly, began hanging around Vincent for no reason, except she was a low-pro hoe, the kind that will shake your hand and still sleep with your man. Vincent Norris came into our lives and single-handedly ended our world as we knew it. I heard a knock on my door. "Tishi, it's me, my brother," Tim said as he entered my bedroom. The room in less 24 hours went from being our room, Evers and mine. "Hey Tim, how are you holding up?" I asked. "Bad." "What do we do, with Evers gone?" He sobbed, "For the first time since our grandma Tony died 2 years ago." "I know, I mean especially for you because you two had a unique situation. Thanks to Mom and Dad, especially Dad. When he married our biological mom, I was 2 and Evers was nearly a year old. When things began to crumble and Tanya would pack our bags, Dad refused to let her take us with her. She would yell that he wasn't even our father, but the way both Ev and I each had a strong grasp on Dad's hand, refusing to budge, she would always leave a few days and come back. Tim reminisced. "Well, Dad and Mom didn't have to give birth to you to love you. Tanya just maybe knew Dad would give you a better life. And I am glad they did. You and Evers are the best." My voice trailed off, remembering that Evers was gone. Tim hugged me and we both did the only thing we could do, cry and just wanting our sister back. Damn, this hurts.
Nora. An ache I can't rub away. 2 hours had passed and I was still in a slight catatonic state of mind from the knockout shot Dr. Bird had given me. Needless to say, My sleep would never come easy again. My Evers was gone. Her dad, well, her adoptive dad Michael had met when Evers was 2 and Tim was almost 4. In fact, Michael had been married to their mom, and it didn't work out, so since Michael had adopted Tanya kids as his own, he fought for and won custody. He and I met later that year, and not much longer, 4 months to be exact. We were married on the day I gave birth to Michael and my daughter, Tesha Evers, and Tim gave me a paper legally adopting me as their legal mom. I love those babies just as much as I love Tess. They have always shown me love, and no biological parent could love their kids more than the love I give and receive from both of them. Of course, later we would have to explain to Tesha why a mean-spirited Auntie Rita just happened to glad about Evers and Tim being adopted, so be nice to them, for nothing hurts worse than an angel unwanted child knowing their own mom dropped them off on Michael. Yet she gets all offended when someone asks her anything about that family of Zoos that she birthed and half-raised. She always starts playing the Jesus card, about how they talked about him yet he turned the other cheek. That may have worked for our Savior, but in this hour her ass is gonna get slapped so hard she really gonna turn that cheek, forcefully. But Tanya was wrong for abandoning her kids, especially to a stepdad. She was just touched by an angel that Mike is a stand up and take care of the people he loved, and no father or in my car mother could love them more. Now though, my Evers was gone, and Lord help me being the strength to Tesha and Tim would need. I lost my sister when I was 9 years old to pneumonia, and it hurts to this day. But Evers, other than give birth to her, she was mine in each and every way. Even Tanya had to hand it to me, as she always did. She didn't think I looked like a Nora. I didn't think she looked like a Tanya. But anyhow, she said, "You did a great job with my children and your Tesha. I love her like my own." Tim murmured, "Yes, she would had to have raised her too if she were yours." Michael jumped up and boomed, Tim, outside now. You disrespectful ass boy." He followed our son into the backyard. Tanya stood with a smirk on her face until we both heard yelping outside. Michael and Tim were rolling their asses off laughing as Evers and Tesha stayed back wondering what Cat Williams had just told via TV.
Tanya. If you're living in Glass House, say whatever you want or will, but I did love my daughter Evers. Just because I didn't raise her, I did get overnight visits as well as my son Tim. Even Michael's biological daughter, Tesha's, came along. I love her as if she is my own. Besides, once I came back into kids' lives, Michael and Nora got married and have birth to Tesha. I have no ill feelings or bad will towards either Tesha, as I said, whom I love as my own, well, at least twice a month, because Tim and Evers wouldn't come for the weekend. Without their sister, it's like thanking both R.A. and Michael for loving my children. I am just not infant mama material. once they hit puberty I can relate to them, just like my fraternal twins from my by third husband Payne Young, Senior Joy and Pain. The names were to remind me that life can be both a joy at times to make up for the pain. Payne Sr. called me to extend his sympathy, only to wind up telling me that he and his wife, Helena, don't think it would be wise to send Joy and Pain to Greer for their sister's homegoing services, especially with being the fact they were 10 years old, and was not ready to know the dark magic of self-murder, as Paine referred to it. However, 10 minutes into being told no, R.A. decides to reason in my feelings and convinced not only to let the twins come, she also invited Payne Sr. and Helena stay at their home, beneath the same roof as my man Victor and me. Trust these ladies have nothing to worry about because to me, I'm comparison to Vic. Both Michael and Payne Sr. were drop shots. Thank God Payne and Helena would only be here overnight, enough time to spend with the twins, at least just like Michael and R.A. were doing with Tim. Payne Sr. and Helena were golden when it came to the kids. But the difference is Helena is their stepmom, and Payne is their biological father. Yet with Michael and R.A., neither one were my two eldest kids. Michael adopted my children at a young age, and when motherhood and marriage began to feel like mayhem, I walked, leaving my kids with Michael. He had already adopted them, so he and R.A. are their adopted parents. Tesha, their adopted sister to my kids. Payne Sr. had only met my children Evers and Tim 3 times the whole 2 years I was married to him. He would always remark that Evers was in her own world. He would always refer to her as crazy in the making, and the only time Tim and Evers could see the twins would be via Michael and R.A. hosting them 2 weeks out of a year. The moment he answered the phone, I knew somehow his ass gonna be disrespectful as hell to my daughter's memory. I also knew Michael and Tim would beat his ass. However, my man Victor, he is a lover, not a fighter. And oddly he too seemed to think Evers was off her troubled child walker, yet unlike Payne Sr., he never blamed me for leaving my kids. In fact, I am 95% that a guy named Laz, who is deceased, is the father of Evers and Tim, but each time I tried to tell him his in-house hoe, Robin, kept as far apart as possible, yet she flipped on him like a pancake after her daughter Tammy falsely accused him of sexual assault. He was found guilty of a prior case and given 10 years, not charged for the rape though. Yet and still he wanted to do nothing to deter Robin from loving him. If only he knew Robin would be the one to have a cousin on the inside of the prison to kill him, and make it look like suicide. She is the reason I am distant from either of my children. My 11-year-old daughter Zaire and 10-year-old son Creole live with their paternal grandmother due to the fact their dad is overseas working as a stock analyst 6 months out of a year, which is how I met him. He had a contract with the company Michael managed. In fact, we met through Michael. It's funny, out of 3 and a possible baby daddies, Michael was the only one who was the true epitome of a man. But even as good as he was, he still wasn't good enough for me. And right now I am eavesdropping, hearing Michael on the phone twice. The first time it was Katina coming over to pick out Evers's burial clothes. The second call was my second ex, Payne Sr., announcing they decided to take Michael and R.A. up on coming to stay a few days earlier for support of Michael, teens, Tim, and R.A., as if I were not Ever's biological mother. I just hope both he and Helena would be sober. Yeah, the twins call me whining from time to time. My heart went out to them, but not enough to seek custody. A PS5 did the trick for the 411 of the drunk driving charge. Payne Sr. had just gotten a month prior. This is one of the reasons when the twins want to see Evers, Tim, and teens, they would stay at Michael's. Katina came bursting through the door announcing that some detectives were downstairs and wanted to speak with us. Why? We didn't kill her. We loved her. What in the world was going on here? To make matters worse, Pain in the ass decided to pull up with luggage piled on top of that generic-ass Hummer he was driving to stay through spring. As we all got settled, I was thinking of burying Evers in her prom dress from last year. Victor paid $2,000 for that dress and all Michael could do was be pissed. See, this is why we didn't last. Cheap is not in my vocabulary. Okay, first off I want to say that I am terribly sorry for your loss. Is everyone here clear to be in this conversation? The young black female officer asked with a grin at Tim. Michael spoke. Yes, we are a blended family. I then made it known that I was Ever's biological mother when she mistook R.A. to be. She is great, but I birthed that child. Payne Sr., already in the spirit, scoffed. The young lady proceeded, did Evers have any type of mental issues, suicidal thoughts before she actually succeeded? Tim, Tesha, and myself shot each other glances, and muttered no. I even became offended. What is it that you are trying to say about my daughter? My daughter had more going for her than most and was happy. This was just an accident. Why don't you just leave? I screamed. Michael and R.A. were so agreeing until drunk-ass Payne said, shut the hell up, Tanya. You know the girl had issues. More I think of it, you, Tim, and Tesha found her like this a year ago and slept on that shit when you all should have said something. The whole damn room went over. Oops, out of time. Michael looked at Tim, Tesha, and me. Victor walked into the house just in time to make me realize that the sudden pain shooting through my neck unbeknownst to me. R.A. had my hair twisted in her hands as if she were playing double dutch using my $1,000 lace front wig. Helena and Michael were trying to loosen Ra's grip, but it wasn't easy. I could hear the twins roaring with laughter alongside their dad, Payne Sr., finally, and many tufts of yanked out human hair. I felt her grip no longer there, but from the corner of my eye, I could see going old school, whipping complete with the leather belt from Michael's jeans. Michael was in Tim's face. The whole scene was chaos. Finally, Officer Zoe Hawkins stepped in and proceeded to take Ra's ass to jail, leaving me alone with one of the bonus child, Tesha, whose lip was busted and face had bruises from Ra's attack. As R.A. was being led away, she screamed, you all could have told Michael and I. That could make a world of difference, asterisk. I kept listening to her cry tears over my daughter, sure she had raised her and loved her, which was supposed to happen, yet I never thought my own children would have loved her more than they loved me, their birth mother. Yes, looking back now I realize I should have told Michael and R.A. instead of gossiping with Payne and Helena's drunk asses via phone. I let it slip out, leave it the Payne Sr. to be the drunk with a damn good memory, but Evers had another secret, one that neither Tesha, Katina, nor Tim knows this secret. In fact, I am not even supposed to know this secret, a secret so very backstabbing that it just may have caused Evers to take her own life. Victor, for some reason wanting to be important as her soon-to-be stepdad, throwing shade along the way. Evers is dead, because Evers wanted to be dead, but R.A., don't try to steal the grief from my old lady, she carried that baby. He started spewing before my son. Tim cracked his jaw with one punch, then had the audacity to ask me, why you even here, Tanya? I simply pushed past my oldest son to administer help to Victor, the only person that meant anything to me at that moment. Yes, sadly, even Evers' death paled in comparison to Victor. But if he is doing what I have suspected of him over the past few months, then his ass was on the thin ice that will eventually give way and leave his ass out in the cold again. But before I could help him to his feet, Ms. Sandra walked up with Zaire and Creole, who just like Joy and Payne ran straight into, or at least tried to run into, Ra's cuffed hands. Nothing like a loss of a family member reveal people's true emotions, and mine were all discombobulated. I am the one who endured having to push something the size of a watermelon out of an hole which was the size of a lemon. I am the one who just lost one of my 6 biological kids, and I get no damn respect.
Nora. Thieves in the temple. Although I stood in shame handcuffed due to Tanya, Tim, Tesha, and to an extent Payne, my daughter looked very banged up, as did Tanya. Michael was Tim's saving grace because he was the next politician to be elected by an ass-kicking. How could they keep such a secret? Evers apparently had tried suicide previous to the one she successfully carried out the mission. Evers did not want to die. Evers was hurting for some reason, and I feel it was a cry for help. But because of Tanya and my son and daughter kept the secret, hurt like hell. I only realized what had happened when my blackout was over. Zaire and Creole were each wrapped around my waist. Creole held me the tightest until he suddenly yanked away, ran up on Zoe Hawkins' partner, Officer David Bellinger. So hard the officer turned beet red and eyes went crossed. Creole yelled, "Now unarrest Mama R.A. and lock me up in elementary school jail. My big sister Evers is dead, and we are sad, but you are meaner than the bogeyman himself." Officer Belonged, despite the pain, roared with laughter. "I am sorry about your big sister, little man. How old are you?" Bollinger asked. Creole stood, as Ms. Sandra had walked up in case these police tried to hurt her grandson. Zoe spoke. "We are not taking her to jail. We only wanted to calm her down before she hurt someone. Zaire and Joy looked at Tesha laughing at her, yet hugging her at the same time. It was then that I realized how swollen her top lip was, so big and swollen. By tomorrow it looked as if it would be on her shoestring. Beneath her eye was forming a reddish/greenish small bruise. Of course I felt bad, but Evers was my daughter as much as Tesha is. After all, by marrying Michael 2 years before I even became pregnant with Tess. So yes, same deal with Tim. I just could never bring myself to realize why Tanya kept having kids, only to walk out and leave them with their dad then. File for a divorce granting whichever father she may be trying to get another come up from. The only one who didn't pay not even attention to her alimony demands was Michael, since he adopted Evers and Tim while married to Tanya, and not once has Tanya even given Michael one clue or hint at who actually was Evers and Tim's dad. It is doubtful that she herself even knows. In fact, since Zaire and Creel's father, Patrick, was in the armed forces, stationed overseas, Michael and I keep them each summer for 3 months. Miss Andra is a wonderful woman, but she lost her husband of 50 years, Patrick, Senior Michael, and I decided to step in where Tanya seemed to not even offer to tread. However, once she learned that not only were the kids getting a monthly stipend from the United States Air Force, Michael, and contributing, and a policy from their grandpa Patrick, Tanya started seeing dollar signs and had the audacity to try and get custody along with the cash she could not wait to get her hands on. But even the judge asked her if she was vying to become a BET comic. She had no right to be as shallow as she was, and when it comes down to her newest dull as flame, Victor, there was something about him that I did not like. He was too damn familiar, too damn fast. After knowing this guy 2 weeks, he started popping up on our doorstep just to bond and let Michael know that he had no ill thoughts on him in regards to when he was married briefly to Tanya. I remember once we were celebrating Tim's high school graduation, Payne and Helena brought the twins down for the weekend. It was always a blessing to me that the house we lived in, although totally remodeled, has been in the family since 1898. When the owner died, he left the house and land to his half-sister, who is black. It has a total of 8 bedrooms upstairs, not to mention the 2 bedrooms in a spacious, decorated attic, a kitchen, dining room, parlor, and a den, along with 4 newly remodeled bathrooms. But now this house will never be the same. Evers, my baby, was gone, and all Tanya was doing was playing Florence Nightingale for Victor's slimy-ass attitude. Sensing it would be best to get Tanya and myself out of each other's path, Zoe suggested that she take Tesha, Katina, upstairs to pretty much look for anything that may answer questions as to what Evers was going through that she knew of no way out except to go beyond the sky. Of course, Zoe knew Tanya would follow behind to snoop around, pretending to see what Evers should be buried in. My baby had just died, and now Tanya was in a hurry to put together a special outfit for her burial. Truth be told, I knew she was going to shake down all of Evers' outfit's pants pockets, jacket pockets, music box, or the large porcelain piggy bank that held at least $10K a week ago. I remember very much hearing Evers, Tim and Tesha compare the balance in each piggy bank. I reminisced on the funny banter exchange of the 3 of them last week. I rushed past Zoe and Tanya. No way was Tanya gonna throw her sticky fingers into Evers' money. In fact, both she and her nickels-slicked bones asked Victor. It was time for them to get the hell on, because in my eyes there was something else Tanya knew, but she acted cool about keeping Evers' first suicide attempt a secret. But there is something else this chick knew. All I know was that the 2 had not spoken in over a month, due to a falling out in some regards to Victor. Yet something ain't right. Yet, and still I keep going over and over in my mind how only a month ago, Tanya decided that since Victor and she had been dating a full year, that it would only be within her reward that he should make an honest woman of her, so to speak. No, they didn't get married, but she did move him into her home. The home that not only Mike had called in a favor to get leased in his name so Tanya wouldn't be homeless. When Jimmy Lee, a married man who had been paying her rent in a 3-bedroom apartment in Mayfair, Mills Lofts, but when Victor became a fixture into Tanya's life, Jimmy Lee was not about to support her and the next dude, especially one she met through her nephew. Victor was no good, and that's what made him look so good in Tanya's eyes, which I don't even know how he can look her in them. The way he carried his sneaky, demeanored self, and although neither Michael nor I are the adoptive parents, Michael was also their legal stepdad, we refused to let every Tim or own daughter, Tesha, stay overnight. Whereas Tanya seemed cool with it, Victor thought he had the right to intervene, demanding that Evers and Tim be allowed to spend weekends with Tanya. But he had zero credibility and the judge had zero time to fool with the audacity. Besides, I began to see a change in Every, and I actually felt that the reason she was now so eager to stay with Tanya on the weekends was because Tanya was never home, and since Michael and I do not allow Evers to see her own, now ex-boyfriend, Vincent but twice a week, whereas I suspected he would actually sneak into Tanya's house through Evers' window and stay overnight. However, I came to realize that even though Tanya acted more like Evers' friend than her birth mother, she didn't like Vincent any more than Michael and I did. However, it was Victor to blurt out Vincent's name and suggested that he led Evers to take the action that she did. And although I am ashamed to admit it, I gotta stand with Victor in this situation. But Payne Sr., being Payne Sr., would soon drop a bombshell that makes Victor look a bit suspect in whatever problem Evers and Tanya were having. Once again, Tanya had put a man over her own daughter, but this time around, it was like mother, like daughter.
Michael. Separating the boys from the men. It has been 2 hours since Evers' body been removed from our home to the morgue. I am a man, but damn it, sometimes a man has to cry, and I, Michael Dion Green, am not too proud to sit in my den and cry for my baby, my Evers, or Evergreen, as I have called her since she was a toddler rocking hard-bottom stride-right walking shoes, and her brother Tim was even younger, when I met their mother, Tanya Clark, who became my first wife, being that I had no biological kids of my own due to the fact I made sure no out-of-wedlock babies would be born unto me. In fact, I am from 4 generations of men who never fathered a child out of wedlock. To adopt was great, and that was what I did as soon as I married Tanya. I became stepfather to her babies. 3 years later, Tanya walked out leaving me, with Evers and Tim. As much as I pretended I wasn't hurt, truth was, embarrassment kicks much ass over heartache. But after my divorce became final, I met my wife Nora. Tanya, despite dumping me, was not pleased with me and Nora, so much displeased that she tried to take Evers and Tim away from me, and being that she was their biological parent, she foolishly thought she would win custody, but she was terribly wrong. Soon after, Nora and I legally adopted Evers and Tim in time for them to witness Nora's belly swell with their new little sister, Letitia, whom we all called Tesha. Evers nor Tim never wanted to be apart from their new baby sister, and vice versa. Now a part of my world has come tumbling down, and it all began with Evers turning into a beautiful teenager, falling for the wrong guy. In my opinion, Vincent Norris was the son of a guy I grew up with in Sunnyglen, Craig Norris, who is now one of the most renowned local televangelists, and you and I know how preachers' kids get down. The more devoted to heaven the pastor is, the more hellish his offspring are. Vincent has a 20-year-old sister who has 6 kids by 6 different baby daddies. Crazy thing is, she has a set of twins, and even they have different fathers. At first Nora and I tolerated Vincent, thinking Evers would eventually grow wary of him, like she had so many others, but something about Vincent was different. Cat Williams is a damn lie when he says no one can mess with self-esteem, but that was exactly what he had done over and over to Evers, until we found out about the situation with him cheating on Evers's close childhood friend, Carly. Yet another preacher's kid. I don't know what to feel, especially knowing Tanya, Tim, and Tesha has been keeping the secret that Evers had tried once before to end her life over Vincent. As the women converged upstairs to find the clothes that Evers would be laying to rest in, Payne Sr., Tim, Nora's brother Nico, and myself sat around as Victor announced he had to make a run to Gregory's boutique for what he referred to as funeral gear. I wanted to kick him straight in his fake fool's gold grill. Surprised he didn't catch gangrene of the mouth or need a tetanus shot from the tarnished, played-out 2K magic-looking snake. Of course it would be a while before this hatred would grow and rush out of me, but when it did, booyah. And leave it to Payne Sr., the dummy, in the equation to suddenly become the Sherlock Holmes of this tragic event that ripped through not only our family, but our world. But before we could signal him to suit up, Officer Zoe was approaching. So, anyone over here wanna tell my partner and I what is so top secret over here? Payne Sr. snarled and said, "This is man talk." She replied, "Well, I will step back and let you speak with my testosterone-filled partner in on the man talk." Instead of shutting up, Payne spoke, "In that case, it's family talk." To our surprise, Payne asked, "Why y'all still here anyway?" The girl did it to herself, it's heartbreaking and embarrassing enough as it is. Tim grimaced, no disrespect Payne Sr., but that was not called for. Shaking their heads, the officers walked towards the front door. After they left, Payne Sr. said, "Don't act like she didn't have problems, but to know her is to know her mama, and although R.A. raised Evers, Tanya is the biological mom whose genetic trait she carried, and that made them clash, and trust me, the girl needed help, and the only person who could have helped her once again chose a man over her own child." Payne Sr. spoke, and he had spoken the truth, the best kind of truth, a mad drunken one.